We can see you and you are not sharing anymore. So this is obviously time for a discussion, I would say.
So guys, I'm open for your questions or like comments if you have any.
Yes, I will start with not a comment. I will try to rephrase it and you just tell me whether I understand. So basically employer branding is about making the company attractive to future employees. Is that it? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, internally, yes, because internally you do all the things to make it attractive and also like reaching out with this message to right people, right? Because the company potentially may be attractive, employees may be very happy about working in this firm, but all others will not know. So for example, some of you mentioned that you don't know PwC at all. So we may be the best employer on the world, but if you haven't heard about us, then most likely you will not apply because you haven't heard of us. But in general, of course, yeah, you're right.
So basically, if these people don't know about you, it's like you are responsible for it. So
yeah, that's true. That's so okay. Of course that's why I'm taking this feedback. And of course, we know honestly, you know,
no,
I won't be lying that our brand awareness is on around of 20 up to 30%. So we still know that there is a big space to improve, but unfortunately, you know, there is a good and bad news with the brand awareness that this is kind of an easy way to correct, but it usually takes time and money, right? Because in order to reach to all the people around the world, yeah, I mean, it's not easy, especially that in social media and wherever you are not very happy to read the messages, read the adverts, especially young people are not very into the adverts, right? So we need to be clever and smart how to reach out to you.
I have another question, but before that, just a short announcement to everyone. Just feel free, unmute yourselves and ask a question, or maybe you can use chat for sending a question, just whatever works for you. I've got a question. You had a slide describing those 9 steps of employer branding cycle, and just a mental experiment. Let's assume that we are from a university. It's called Institute of Applied Psychology, where we work. And the question is, if I wanted to attract like people from business to come and become part of the team teaching in our institute, what shall I do following those 9 steps, just to make it like tangible?
I would suggest to start with defining what is so special about you and your brand. So to know what to communicate, right? Why people should choose you and who should choose you, right? Who are you? What is your target audience? And when you define that, so first of all, who are you talking to? And in the second step, so most likely you will then start from, especially in the corporate world, you would start from doing some research. Using the data that you already have, for example, some perception research, or sometimes you need to perform the research. So simply ask the target audience, what do they know about you? What are the associations? Because this is probably the biggest mistake of all the marketers, that they assume that all the people think as they think, right? Or like, so whenever you are a marketer or employer person doing employer branding, you never should trust your feelings, but you should, because your feelings may be biased, right? So you need to check. And then when you exactly know what is so special about your school, then you need to be creative in, okay, so what is so special? What is important also for the target audience? Because let me give you an example. There is a big amount of companies promoting themselves through the CSR activities, right? What is great. This is very nice. But the question is, and right now the answer would be, how many people really choose the employer based on their CSR activities?
Just a brief interruption. CSR means corporate social responsibility, for those who don't know that abbreviation.
Yeah, so all the actions that you do to help the community, right? And employees are proud. You may be really proud of every company, but the question is if this is a driver of your choice, right? So whether you would having 2 different offers from different brands, you would choose based on that. Most likely not. Those are the answers from most of the people, because when you are choosing the employer, this is not a short time assignment. You are spending the time with the employer for a longer time. So you will be rather more into like, what are the development opportunities? What are the compensation? What is the compensation, total reward? What are the people you will be working with? So That's why I'm saying you need to choose wise, not only what you are great in, but what is compelling to the target audience. And like I said, what is unique. So for example, you may hear that almost every company is great because of the people they employ and the atmosphere they have, right? Great, but every company has some atmosphere. Please define or like say whether your school has a better atmosphere or the competitors, right? So those are the elements that you need to define, and then you are going with the messages, being creative on the market, how to sell that, how to make your target audience notice you out of all the adverts that they can see about from your competitors as well. And of course, later on measuring that and then so on and so forth.
Basically, even the first step that you are describing sounds pretty demanding to me. Like, how do we figure out what we are excellent at here in our Institute of Applied Psychology? Will I discuss it with other teachers, or should we have like, I don't know, a 360-degree feedback, or asking students how they perceive us? What would be like concrete steps I should take to figure out what are our strengths as an employer?
So my short answer is to employ the expert. Because okay. I mean, you know, if that would be so easy to do that, so that every CEO would do that, or every person, then of course my role would not be needed, and I would not encourage you guys to become an employer branding expert, right? I mean, and this is the mistake, by the way, that big amount of people do, because they think, yeah, I mean, we can do everything. You know, I'm good in marketing, I'm good in HR, I can do everything. And yes, of course, you can do that, but the question whether that will be effective. So you have two choices: either to employ the agency that will help you out doing that, or what I always suggest, to employ an employer branding expert that can do this whole verification, different kind of research, because you know, you may, depending on the situation, your perception, you may need to have some kind of a focus groups with your employees, with your leadership, with the people outside of the company that are like you, or like your new joiners, because usually new joiners are a good source of the message or of the information, right? Because they are not very much biased by the company already. Do some kind of external research, check what kind of data is available, and of course later on analyze that, compare it with your competitors. Because like I said, you need to, you are you know, working on some market that that is and different other companies are also communicating something, so you need to know how to differentiate. So it's usually a process, and it's not something you will do in a week. And that's why I was presenting this cycle, because even if you go through the cycle, you do the checkup, verification, you do the campaign, you are checking the results, and then usually you need to adjust it, right? The life is changing, people are changing. Before COVID, guys, your expectations towards employers were different. Right now, you're expecting a bit different things, right? I mean, before the COVID, you would probably accept the fact that you're working from the office all the time, and the remote work was just a benefit. Right now, it's a you know, usual thing, and you would probably deny every offer that would not give you this flexibility anymore, because we are used to that, right? So everything changes, and so all the time the communication from the employers has to change. That's why it's not a one-time deal to employ the person like employer branding expert, but the person has to do things, verify, check the results, adjust, and do the next step, next cycle. So yeah, 13 years for me right now.
Now, from a different angle, I would like to ask, you said basically that the employer branding can be divided like into two major parts. The first part is how great we are as an employer. And the second part is how we communicate that to the rest of the world. And what if you come as a consultant and then you find out that the company is not that great? Will you tell them, okay, first improve and then we can talk about communicating to the world? Or how do you react?
I mean, very good question, and kind of a tricky one, because I mean, you know, I would say that as an employer, and you know, the better employer branding expert you are, the better choice you have, of course, to pick up those brands, employer brands that, or like employers that you can really promote and be successful with. This is like with everything. I mean, you know, when you are a marketer, you will also be picking up the brands that you want to work with. So of course, if you ask me if every employer can become great, yes, every employer can become great, but doing internal stuff. So In other words, if I'm joining the answering questions directly, if I would join this kind of a company, I would say, let's focus on internal changes first. So that's why, for example, in that case, we are building some frameworks. We are checking, okay, where we are, where we would like to be. And this is usually the work with the leadership, but sometimes also with the employees, checking out, once again, what our competitors do offer, so what we don't and how we can make up for it and what we can offer more. But in that case, we are focusing mostly on internal elements before going outside. If everything is well, I mean, if the employer is great, then we can focus only on the external part, because it's, you know, it's only the execution. It's only to inform people about it, right? So depending on the that's why we are talking about some kind of a journey that starts from inside and ends on the outside, right? And depending on the level where we are, this is the moment we need to start doing something.
Now another question, because you said that, okay, if there is a company that is not that great, then the first step is becoming great first and then doing the marketing part. If you, as an employer branding expert, figure out that the company is not great yet, are you involved in that transformation, or is it someone else's job?
I mean, I should be. I mean, this is, of course, you know, it always depends, because this is the question, for example, how senior we have the HR director in this company. As you know, sometimes HR directors are being a part of the board, sometimes they are not. So of course, and I will be open with you, it's not so easy that, you know, you come there, you say, yeah, guys, we need to transform, and everybody's saying, yeah, oh, yeah, let's do that. Because of course, every CEO will tell you, yeah, of course, let's do that. But then he will ask you for the costs, and you know, and then most of them will start saying, oh, maybe we don't need to do that, maybe it's not so bad. Or some of them will start convincing you, we are great, you know, my friends really want to work here. Or like, for example, let me just show you the story from PwC. Our partners usually say, when I was younger, everybody wanted to work at PwC, right? And you know, you will not tell this person that you are not young anymore. So I mean, it does not work this way. And then you need to be wise enough to show the data, to be, of course, to convince them. And this is this important part. So the more impactful you are, the better employer, the better expert, the better then, of course, you can work with them. But the ultimate answer, and I'm also the lecturer on the postgraduate studies in Poland on employer branding, and I'm always saying to people that, I mean, it's not that you can convince every single company. If the CEO, if the board will say, no, we are great as we are, we don't want to change, and you know that there is nothing special about it, then this is the moment you need to change the employer. And of course, use your skills and efforts with this brand that really wants to change and wants to be a great employer, so that employees are happy. And this is where it all starts, because if employers are happy, they will support your work, the referral, the word of mouth. So whatever we do as a corporate will be supported by employees. If you do it wrong and you will start doing the great campaigns, you will promise some things that are, completely out of the blue, it's completely useless, because you will spend money, you will make an effort, and nobody will react, because almost everyone before joining the job, the new employer, will check with the network. What do you think? What do you know about this employer? And if you start noticing that what they are promising is completely false, most likely you will not join this company anymore, right? So in that case, you can spend a year, spend money, and not be successful. That's why I'm saying you need to be wise and talk only what is really true.
So basically, over-promising would backfire.
Exactly. And this is what we always need to teach our leadership and all the companies I've been working with, because of course in the past it was a bit different. I mean, in the past, internet was not all over the place. You couldn't check everything, you couldn't verify everything. So sometimes the good PR worked well, because people only then joined a company only after a year or two, realize that it's not so good, but people were not eager to change jobs so often. Right now, each of you will will just give the feedback to your employer and will start looking for a new job right away, because this is how the young generation is. And that's why I'm saying that it's very much about the inside rather than the outside first, because we can be successful. We can invite you all, guys. I can tell you some great stories here, and you would probably then apply all, and hopefully you will all join us. But then after half of the year, if I would lie to you, you would most likely resign. And from that perspective, we would invest into your onboarding, into your development, but usually the employee does not give the value back to the employer after a month. This is kind of a longer process, right? So that's why we need to be wise about not only promoting and saying nice things, but really reaching out to the relevant people that will like our continuous development as a PwC, becoming an expert. And that needs to be something that drives you. If you don't want to be an expert, if you don't want to develop and feel likely you will not, give your efforts to PwC, and as this work is hard, as I told you, after half a year, you would resign.
Now a question for you as a consultant, so in consultant's shoes. You as an expert on employer branding are in touch with a CEO who is not certain whether to invest in employer branding. What's the sales pitch? How do you describe the value for a company?
This is the question. How to sell the product to the person. The most of the sales people would say it depends on who are you talking to, right? And here, for example, I'm a big fan of the colors, right? Of all this insight discovery methodology, and to use this one to tell when you are talking to the blue one, you will use data. You will show digits. So blue one, so the people that are very analytical. That are taking decisions based on the data, right? So in that case, you need to show data, you need to prove it. When you are talking to the red one, you need to have a great story, you need to impact him and make him believe in you first. Then so no matter what you are telling or saying, but they need to trust that you are the one who will drive it no matter what, right? When you are in short, it depends on what really reaches out to the person. Of course, it's more challenging than that, because you don't need to convince just the CEO, but you need to convince the whole board. So from the practical note, usually data is the one that can, because when you are in the board, usually you are making decisions based on data. And this is that's why you need to have the data from inside, from outside, different kind of researches, different kind of reports that you read. And based on that, of course, and you need to be ready to answer potentially the most challenging questions, like can we really do it cheaper, or because you usually, when we're talking about the branding and employer branding, we are talking about the long-term perspective, because branding is not easy. This is not something you will do overnight, right? And then, of course, the board will come and ask you, okay, it's great, let's do that, but how to get 100 candidates into tomorrow? Usually this is impossible, right? That's why you need to start this discussion sooner, before you need those people, and you cannot attract them anymore.
Now a very specific question. There are some students watching us now or later, the recording, who will be delivering a short student project, and they will be doing employer branding evaluation for some companies. What's your advice? What would you do in their shoes? Let's imagine you are there, part of a student team, and your task is to prepare an employer branding evaluation of T-Com or T-Mobile or Orange or some of those companies. How would you proceed?
This is kind of a challenging one, because usually it's hard to assess the employer brand only based on external data, because usually what is important is the internal data, what your employees are telling about you, what, for example, why people are leaving your company, right? Of course, but focusing on this task, of course, what you can assess is the way they communicate. You cannot verify whether they are relevant. So this is the part that is usually very hard to assess, but at least you can assess two other factors out of what I was telling. So whether what they are communicating is compelling, and in that case, of course, you need to verify what is their target audience, who are they looking for. You can check what kind of jobs they are publishing, right? And I'm talking from the very, very practical point of view, right? So you are checking what kind of jobs they are promoting, and whether this communication that they are doing in social media, for example, is compelling to this target audience. And then the second step is, of course, to check who are their competitors, but I'm not talking the industry competitors, but talent competitors. Because, for example, when we are looking for talents for Big Four, we are not competing with Big Four only. We're competing with startups, shared delivery centers, so different kind of people that employ same type of people, right? And then based on that, you can also see what the competitors are talking and what is more attractive. And then you can compare whether the T-Mobile, for example, is offering something more, what is their offer, if their communication is more attractive, whether they are active enough so that you can see them not only in social media, but also in other channels. This is how you can evaluate whether they are doing good job or bad. Of course, like I said, eventually, of course, it can be verified only internally, but this is what you can do being outside.
That was a very interesting thing that you mentioned, that my notion was that I worked for a telco company. So basically from the employer branding perspective, another telco company would be our competitor. And you just said that no. Every company that attracts the same candidates that we are interested in attracting is our competitor. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and this is challenging because, we are usually used to work with competing and comparing ourselves towards the industry competitors. And like I said, today, you can choose between T-Mobile, but I mean, you can also, you may be also the person, like, let's say, for example, we are looking for auditors at PwC, but those auditors, people of the same skills, may become finance managers or finance people in every other firm. They may be working in shared delivery centers, doing also audit, but simply for one company, because at PwC will be doing that for different clients, diverse clients. At SDC, you will be doing that for the very specific firm that you're working. But there are pros and cons. At PwC, you will be doing that for diverse clients, diverse sectors. It's really interesting, but the work is more challenging, usually, harder. In SDC, you will be just, getting at 9, doing your stuff, going out without any pressure. It may be value for one person. It may be con for the second one. So that's the challenge.
Now I will slightly change the topic. I hope that we somehow convince some of the students that employer branding might be a very interesting field for them for the future. And if there is someone who thinks about employer branding, what should they do? What was your story? How did you become an employer branding expert? And please share some advice for those who would like to become employer branding experts.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is that I was starting my career like 13 years ago, or like even more. So it was a bit different market, and honestly, employer branding was only starting. I mean, it was not popular back then. So that was, of course, a bit of I'm just looking for a word right now. Yeah, I mean, it was not planned. I mean, that was simply a coincidence. I was working in a students' organization, and honestly, I'm kind of a person that I was doing and during my studies many different things, starting from IT things. I'm a photographer. I was also a salesperson in the students' organization. So I had many various skills, but I was not an expert in anything. And by the way, this is what worked exactly for employer branding, because the boss that knew me from my students' time, because we were meeting during our students' organizations time, he told me, I mean, yeah, I'm looking for somebody who will be working in HR, doing some HR work, but in the same time, he will be dealing with career website, recording some videos for the career website, and in the same time, of course, doing some competition, like student competition that require IT knowledge. So by a surprise, turned up that my various interests and various competences in different fields may work for this one, right? So that was my story, and then yeah, I really liked this diversity of different things that we're doing, like events. Sometimes you're doing events, sometimes you're doing campaigns, sometimes you're doing researches, sometimes you are writing some posts, social media posts. And by the way, yeah, I mean, we were just starting doing the social media back then. But for you guys, I would say, I would start, I mean, if there is any possibility to get to any local employer branding agency first, this is always the best step to start. Because of course you may join the company itself at the very beginning, but usually, I mean, when we are joining the company, you don't have many people to learn from. because first of all, we don't have many experts around, and usually in the company there's, you know, in the best case, you will have one person, your boss, that will be able to teach you something, maybe some marketers, of course. But when you join employer branding agency, then you have a chance to learn from different people, from different industries, from different clients. And this is exactly what I always suggest right now. And only after the agency stuff, that is not easy. I need to tell you the truth at the beginning, because this is the way, but you know, you become an expert and then you can get to the company and be responsible for the brand. But knowing already the tools, the ways, and honestly, you know, having the chance to check up your ideas and verify them on other clients, not your job, right, per se. But the second option is, of course, to look for some internships, for some for junior positions, and then, of course, hope to that you will be able to learn from some people inside.
Łukasz, you just described plenty of different skills that are required to be an employer branding expert. I don't know whether they have the expression in English, jack of all trades or something like that. Well, if we had to rank them, if there are like top 3 skills that you think that we need to develop to be great at employer branding, what would those skills be?
I mean, of course, question is how specific you want to be, because I would say, yeah, you need to be a great marketer, but becoming a marketer requires many skills. So I would say probably, I mean, first of all, this data analytics is quite important, because especially right now, and nowadays, marketing is, I mean, usually people believe that marketers are great creative people. But I mean, you know, creatives can be great, but if they are not meeting the target, they are not giving you the value, giving the results, then it does not work, right? So data analytics skills, so to exactly as I said, to check what kind of data, being able to analyze the data and make some conclusions out of it, that it can work. So that would be the first one. Probably the second one would be, of course, the general presentation skills, because whenever you are responsible for the employer brand, especially nowadays, it's usually the promotion for students and graduates, you need to be communicative. You need to be able to, you know, to talk with them, to lead some workshops, meetings. So you should not be scared of presentations, doing presentations, also inside of the firm. Right, so this is the thing. And project management, because employer branding at the end of the day is about different kind of projects, online projects, offline projects, job fairs, like I said, some contests for students. So at the end of the day, you need to deliver those. And when your target audience usually thinks that there is like plenty of people behind the project, and you have like, you know, 5 agencies, 10 directors behind you, and then it turns out that the whole contest is on your shoulders, right? So of course you have usually the support of people inside the firm, like marketers, lawyers, whoever you need, but usually it's your projects and you are responsible for that, because today nobody would pay for the project that, you know, 10 people work on, because it wouldn't be efficient.
I have a question as well. I was wondering, how long then do you work with a particular company, and then how do you kind of, because you say you kind of like manage yourself in your own time, do you kind of work with several companies at once, or do you just work with one company until, you know, you have done what you can and then you look for the next company? Or how does that, how do you manage that?
It depends whether you are working in an agency or in the firm, right? I mean, when you are working in an agency, usually you have many clients and a few projects in the same time. So this is the value. I mean, in the like the challenge is that you need to, you know, think and, you know, switch in between different brands, different realities, different challenges. So you need to remember what is the brand persona, what is the challenge in this one and this one. So when you are a consultant, when you are an agency, this is it. When you are working for the firm, for the company, then usually you are working for only one brand, because other than that, it would be simply a conflict of interest, right? If you would be working for same, I mean, if you are an employee, not a freelancer. And so, for example, I was always working on this company side, so I was always working for one brand at a time. just to understand it well, just to do all the steps I was talking about, and then of course to supervise all the projects we are doing in the same time. Usually we have many projects, but usually after some time. So for example, in my career, I was usually after 4 or 5 years, I was changing the brand, because I mean in my life I was usually meeting all the goals that I had. So after 5 or 6 years, everything was set up in the way. There was no point for me to sit down there and do the same stuff, because I was usually growing up other people that would be able to do that, and I was going for a new challenge for the new company. But there are people who are doing employer branding for one company for a longer time as well. So it depends.
And you just mentioned brand personas. That would be an exciting topic for a whole workshop, I would say, but no time today. I know that you need to leave at 6 o'clock. So maybe just last, and I don't call it a question, maybe a last message, anything that a piece of advice that you would like to share with the students listening to you and thinking about maybe in the future becoming employee brand experts.
I mean, I would recommend an advice going this direction. Of course, you need to be aware of challenges. I mean, this is like, for example, when you choose between HR role, marketing role, and employer branding role, the big difference is that there will be plenty of marketing jobs available, plenty of HR jobs, and not so many employer branding jobs, especially right now. But if you are good at it and if you really like it, then this is like, then of course you don't need to worry about the job in the future. However, because you will be just an expert, and then you will be choosing the brands, right? So that's my thing. And right now I would say that it's becoming more and more popular. And of course, in that case, there is also a big advantage that you don't have like many competitors. So when when you want to change the job, there is not so many experts on the market. So the main decision you need to take, whether you want to be a big fish in the small ocean, right, or a small fish in the big ocean. So this is the thing. If you want to just be on the safe side and have plenty of jobs to choose from, then rather you should go in the marketing career or HR career. If you want to do something in between, do something, in my opinion, more sexy, more interesting, but in the same time, to have less of the competition on the market and automatically be an expert, more easy on the market, then of course employer branding can be kind of a interesting one. So yeah, that's probably it for me.
Łukasz, thank you very much for sharing. Thank you very much for devoting your time to us. It was a great pleasure, and I hope to talk to you next time.
Yeah, I'm always happy to do so, guys. Of course, feel free to find me on LinkedIn in case you would have any questions. Then, of course, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help, because, like I said, the more employer branding experts we have on the market, the better for all of us, because the industry is growing. Best practices are growing, so we can learn from one from another, right? So I'm keeping the fingers crossed for different countries that we have here, like Slovakia. I saw also like Bulgaria, UK, right, that I remember. So keeping the fingers crossed, guys. And
thank you so much. Can I ask a question about how you pronounce your last name?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. It's Łukasz Trzeszczkowski. So even in Poland, I sometimes need to explain that, how to write it down. And to be honest, it's sometimes even hard for me to write it down when I'm, signing all the papers. I need to remember to put all the letters, not to skip any of those.
But must be a great icebreaker, because everyone calls you Łukasz. They don't even try to use the surname, especially internationally.
Yeah, I remember during my students' time, everybody was, trying to call me by my surname. So when they started to say something around Trzeszcz, I knew it's about me.
Thank you. Once again, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you very much. All the best, guys.